howdy, hey, and welcome to All About That Disney Life. That is me. I am the girl who is all about that Disney life. Thank you so much for watching my fun facts and trivia about Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs. Now we move on to Walt Disney's second animated project, Pinocchio, which came out in 1940. This cast was small, but it was mighty in a very big way because Pinocchio still remains a beloved classic to this day, and I don't know any child who doesn't know the story of Pinocchio. So we have Dick Jones, who was Pinocchio, Cliff Edwards as Jiminy Cricket, Christian Rubb as Geppetto, Clarence Nash as Figaro the Cat, Walter Catlett as Honest John Worthington Foulfellow. Try to say that 4 times fast. It's a bit of a tongue twister. As we know, Gideon the Cat is mute in the movie, but I did find a fun fact about who was supposed to be the voice for Gideon the Cat, and we will get to that fact later on in this video. We had Charles Jules as Stromboli, the owner of the marionette show, and also was the voice of the coachman and the owner of Pleasure Island. We had Evelyn Vanabelle as the Blue Fairy, Frankie Darrow as Lampwick, the boy that Pinocchio meets on his way to Pleasure Island and the one who turns into a donkey in the pool hall. We had Stuart Buchanan as one of the carnival barkers on Pleasure Island, and Thurl Ravenscroft, who provided the vocal effects for Monstro the Whale. Now we get to the amazing fun facts and trivia about this favorite wooden puppet. Number 1, Pinocchio is based on a book. Once again, a story based on a book, which was not unusual for Walt Disney to take inspiration from storybooks. This story of Pinocchio was written by an Italian man named Carlo Collodi, and it was published in 1883. And this version of the story is dark, just like the grim fairy tale for Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs. In this version of Pinocchio, in the book, Pinocchio is stabbed by a bunch of assassins. He is hung halfway through the story. I don't know by who, and I don't know by how. I don't want to know how, but to be honest. And later on, he is rescued and turned into a real boy by another boy with blue hair. Much different than a blue fairy, but we got some blue somewhere. Pinocchio premiered at the Center Theater in New York City on February 7th, 1940, and it was released into theaters on February 23rd, 1940. Number 2, the animators were stumped. You got it? Wood joke? Is it funny? No? Okay, moving on. So, animators were kind of confused. They didn't know how to draw Pinocchio. They were torn between, do we draw this wooden puppet with human movements or more like puppet movements? Because in the beginning of the story, when Geppetto finishes making Pinocchio, he is definitely moving like a wooden puppet on the string. But in the movie, it's a puppet that turns to life. So is he wooden, or moves like a human? It was kind of confusing if you think about it, but it wasn't until animator Mitchell rescued the animators after a year and a half of struggling on how to draw Pinocchio. This animator saved them by saying, why don't we blend the two together? So he gave Pinocchio human movements, but he added puppet-like joints, like in the arms, and you can see the screws, like in the elbow joints and the knee joints, and I think the feet joints. In the movie, I'm not sure, but if you look very closely, I think we can see them. Number 3, the inspiration for Jiminy Cricket. It was based on Walt Disney's Uncle Ed. And Jiminy Cricket was originally drawn like a real-life cricket, like a real-life bug, until Walt Disney saw the early drawings and said, well, I don't think that's what we're going for. So the animator for Jiminy Cricket got a little frustrated and went back to redraw, and so Jiminy Cricket was drawn as a human being with a human body but with a bug-like head, and that's what we got. And Jiminy Cricket's coat that he got from the Blue Fairy, the black one, it was based on a Joni Walker Scotch bottle, and the animator drew it to make it look like he still had wings. Like, I think that's what the tails are at the end of it, because crickets do have wings. Number 4, Figaro the Cat is Walt Disney's favorite character. That shocked me too. And because Figaro the Cat was such a beloved character of Walt Disney's, he moved Figaro the Cat to give him another job as Minnie Mouse's pet cat, and he is still Minnie Mouse's pet cat to this day, and we all know Figaro, and we love the sweet little kitty. Number 5, Jiminy Cricket dies. Wait, what did you say? I know, right? Nuts. This is what shocked me when I found out about this fact. In the original story by Mr. Collodi, Jiminy Cricket dies when Pinocchio throws a hammer at him. And Walt Disney decided that he wanted to keep Jiminy Cricket in the story. He just didn't make up his mind about it until the script was pretty much done. So all the writers had to go back and add Jiminy Cricket into the rest of the story. And that is the story that we got. And I'm so glad that Jiminy Cricket is in throughout the entire story, because I can't imagine a version where Jiminy Cricket is not in the entire story. Number 6. Pinocchio got some musical awards. Not Tony Awards, music awards. Pinocchio won 2 Academy Awards, and they were both for music. The music for Pinocchio was written by Paul Smith, Lee Harlan, and Ned Washington. They got 1 award for Best Original Score, and the other award was for Best Song, When You Wish Upon a Star. That song became an icon for all things Disney. When you hear that iconic theme song play before a movie starts with the castle, like the Disney castle in the background, and you hear that music before the full-length movies play on, that is When You Wish Upon a Star. It might be a little version, and you might be able to hear some of it, but When You Wish Upon a Star is an icon, remains an icon to this day. Number 7, Pinocchio, big success, but a box office failure. Everybody in Hollywood thought that Pinocchio would be a huge success, because when all the critics saw it in theaters or at the premiere, they were saying, oh my gosh, this movie is perfect. Walt has completely outdone himself. There is nothing wrong with this movie. But according to the box office, Pinocchio barely made a tenth of what Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs made. And Walt believes that it was the fault of Gone with the Wind that trashed the success of Pinocchio. Even though Gone with the Wind came out 2 years before Pinocchio came out, I think Walt believes that because Gone with the Wind was such a huge hit, it was an amazing hit, because Gone with the Wind came out a year after Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs. And so many people were so in love with Gone with the Wind and that storyline. I think he thought that Gone with the Wind would just trash and ruin any new animation projects that Walt had in mind. So luckily it didn't, and Pinocchio is still a beloved classic, as I have said. Number 8. The voice of Bugs Bunny was supposed to be the voice of Gideon the cat. Did you hear me? I mean, the voice of what's up, Doc, was supposed to be Gideon the cat. Here's what happened. Mel Blanc was hired by Walt Disney when Mr. Disney heard some drunk impressions of Mr. Blanc that he was doing. Mel Blanc recorded his entire dialogue in 16 days, and he was paid $50 a day for those 16 days. And later on, Walt decided to make Gideon the cat mute because he was afraid that the cat would sound too drunken. So they only kept one thing that Mel Blanc contributed to Gideon the cat, one hiccup. And Mel Blanc was not told that all the rest of his dialogue was cut out until the movie came out. Well, I guess he wasn't too happy about that, but he still had Looney Tunes to fall back on, so it wasn't a huge loss. But that's what shocked me. I had no idea that Gideon the cat was going to have a voice, but here we are. Number 9, different island names. Pleasure Island was originally supposed to be called either Boogie Land or Silly Land. You know, the animators were trying to think of different names for islands where boys could go somewhere and they could do nothing wrong. They could do whatever they want, let their hair down, go wild, go crazy, do anything that they pleased. I guess Pleasure Island is what came into play. But the thing about Pleasure Island for me is that it is dark in a way. You got boys drinking alcohol. You got them smoking cigars. You got them gambling, shooting, playing pool. But the darkest thing is that they get turned into donkeys. That is the part that really freaked me out, to see these innocent kids, because they were so lazy and so bad, they get turned into donkeys to make up for their laziness. And that's the part that broke my heart, is when they're crying in their crates, wanting their moms, and it just broke my heart. Number 10, Disney animators as Disney clock builders. You heard me. Disney animators made real-life cuckoo clocks, like the cuckoo clocks in Geppetto's workshop. Disney animators were busy drawing all of the different type of cuckoo clocks that would be around Geppetto's workshop. Walt Disney saw the drawings and decided this isn't going to work. No cuckoo clock would be like this. How would a cuckoo clock work like this, like in a drawing? How's it going to work? The animators built real-life cuckoo clocks of all the drawings that they made just to prove that they would work. Have some faith, Walt Disney. Your animators they know what they're doing. Number 11, Jiminy's Fate. Now this is a sad kind of a fact. As I said, Jiminy Cricket was played by Mr. Cliff Edwards, and he was a veteran vaudevillian actor. Sadly, he suffered from a drug and alcohol addiction, and that affected his career. And his career began to take a nosedive in 1969, and Disney no longer employed Mr. Cliff Edwards. The Disney company did pay for Mr. Edwards' medical bills. But in the 1980s, somewhere in the Disney company, they found out that Mr. Edwards did not get a great gravestone when he passed away July 17th, 1971. So the Disney company did give him a simple kind of a gravestone, and one of the people at Disney, this is not a quote-unquote, but a sub-phrase of a quote that I saw. It paid tribute to Ukulele Ike, which was Cliff Edwards' vaudeville nickname. Number 12, where can we find Pinocchio? There is a ride, Pinocchio's Daring Adventures, and that ride is in Disneyland, California, Tokyo Disney, and Disneyland Paris. But people may be wondering, is there a ride in Disney World dedicated to Pinocchio? Sadly, there is not. However, there is a restaurant dedicated to Pinocchio. It's called Pinocchio's House. In Disneyland Paris, there is a meet and greet for Pinocchio that you can meet and say hi every single day in Disneyland Paris, and it's near the Bella Notte. It's either a restaurant or a store. I have no idea because I've never been to Disneyland Paris. Unfortunately, Pinocchio is not seen in the States at all, but on occasion we can find him at Epcot at the International Gateway or at American Adventure. Who knows? But I have never seen Pinocchio out and about at all 3 times that I've been to Disney. You can also find him at Tokyo Disneyland, in Fantasyland, or at the World Bazaar. So there you have it. There are all the fun facts and trivia that I found out about Pinocchio. Not quite as interesting as Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs, fact-wise, but still amazing facts all the same. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up and leave a comment down below. And don't forget to subscribe. And I hope you have a zippity-doo-dah day, and I'll see you next time. Bye!